Hello everyone and welcome back to the Waffle Shed, here for a variety of reasons. Firstly, the Wrestling Outsider Towers have been condemned and are close to demolition. The Orangery is currently full of dignitaries from elsewhere, and mainly really because it's the school holidays and I can't bear being indoors with the tiny tyrants. So I'm here in the Waffle Shed to tell you all about the things that are going on at UBW and Square One, starting off with things that are going on at the last show, which was Collateral Damage. The show opened with some exciting news from Hugo Bloom, the owner of UBW and the Square One gym. He says he needs to step back a little bit to take care of business elsewhere, so he's leaving UBW and Square One in ring action in the capable hands of Bart O'Connor, which we already knew from last time out, a Havoc in the Heat, but also Arthur Scarro, who, our captain, is injured and therefore not at this time able to defend his Legacy Championship. In the meantime, he's going to be taking care of what's going on in the ring from outside the ring before he takes care of business back within the squared circle. Right, let's move on. Collateral Damage had loads of action in the British Crown Cup, but there was something else going on, slightly tangentially linked to that, but we'll get to that in a second. Tony Kyle put out an open challenge. Now, we've seen Chris Aries has done this a lot recently, but on this evening, Mr. Aries knew who his opponent was going to be, so TK put out the open challenge. Who answered the call? Well, someone who was pushed into this by memes. It was David Kaiser. We're used to seeing this guy as the in-ring badger, taking care of business, making sure people are obeying the rules. He did exactly that at Havoc in the Heat, but he upset memes by not handing the belt to him when Mr. Scarro had to step out of the ring due to injury. So he pushed him to take on this challenge of TK, and he did it with aplomb. He came in and put on a stellar showing for his debut. This maiden voyage for the Kaiser was an absolute stormer. He's quite the gymnast, and some of those blows he put into TK were absolutely immense. He did come up short on this occasion, ironically falling to a German suplex from the Absolute Maverick, not actually a pilot. I've checked in with the Civil Aviation Authority, take 14 to get that one right, and they have come back and said they have no record of a T. Kyle as a pilot. So I don't know where he got his license from. Very suspicious indeed. Anyway, TK might have thought, that's great. The open challenge is complete. Let's move on. But before he can step out the ring, out come two members of the label. That is Freddie Idol, the head of the label, or the head rocker, the jaw rocker, the jaw roller. One of those things, many of those things, live from Nebworth, as he says. He comes out and embarrassingly keeps getting Tony's name wrong. He keeps calling him Tomothy. Can you imagine? But it's not Idol that's going up against Carl here. It's Liam McCarthy. Not scheduled. This quarterfinal is going to take place later, but they say it's an open challenge. Let's do this now. The referee says, yeah, might as well, and rings the bell. The Kaiju, the King of Monsters, slightly unhappy that his name wasn't mentioned, but I guess the guy needs no instructions. The tremors from those footsteps as he approaches the ring are enough of a warning to whoever's in there that he is on his way. Surprisingly in this one, TK wins a second match, lifting up the King of Monsters and slamming him before taking the victory. I did think the British Crown Cup was in the pocket of the label because they had strong showing on both sides, but one of them's out. Freddie's still in the competition, so maybe we'll see how he gets on later on. So who is TK going up against now that he's got through to the semi-final? Well, the next bout was between TJ Rex and Joshua King, only Joshua King hasn't turned up. He says the people at UBW, and probably specifically Stevenage, are not worth it. And TJ Rex says, hang on, you're not worth it. And everyone does agree. But he's not just doing the walkover here. He's put out a bounty on the head of the dinosaur. And who should take that up? None other than the outlaw Andy Hitch. He comes to the ring to the strains of AC/DC's TNT. And I can tell you, this guy is nothing if not explosive. Now, I think this kind of thing should be outlawed as well. I don't know what happens if Hitch wins. Does that mean King goes through to the semi-final? Is this just a paid service that the guy's doing? What I can tell you is that the outlaw makes quite an impact. Not long into the match, new referee David Atlas is unsighted, and he absolutely clouts Rex across the head, and he goes down. Not the last time it's going to happen in that match. There are shoulder barges, there are clotheslines, there are more closed fists behind the referee's back that absolutely decimate the Cretacean King of the Ring. Does the outlaw come up with a debut win here? Sadly, not for him, but not for Rex. That's great news for him. He's through to the semi-final. So we have TK, not a pilot, versus TJ, very unlikely to actually be a dinosaur, in the next round of the British Crown Cup. That's coming up in Biggleswade at Crowning Glory on the 3rd of August. Make sure you get down there for that to see who gets through to the final to face. That'd be telling. Should we find out? So the other British Crown Cup match on offer here is on the other side of the draw. This is actually the semi-final to take a place in the final to face either the Not Pilot or the Not Dinosaur. This is Denzel Mack, Square One champion, the Warrior, going up against head of the label. We've mentioned him before, Freddie Idol. He's cruised through to this stage. A little bit more difficult for Mack. He overcame Levi Muir in the last round, and that was a colossal bout. Idol comes to the ring with his two hangers on, well, with a hanger on and an absolute giant in the form of Liam McCarthy, but Tig's there as well and taking abuse from the crowd. It's a big night for Tig, so this is a little bit of a distraction before then. And the distraction, that's exactly what he is. They are up and down, him and Liam, on the side of the ring. And there is one point where Freddie Idol looks as if he's actually done something bad. They crowd round him, trying to support him, because it looks like he's actually devastatingly injured. But he's playing possum, and he comes back up and clouts Mack. Later in the match, there's more distraction, just as Mack seems to be getting the upper hand. And a foot stomp later after a suicide dive from the Warrior. And we have a win for Freddie Idol. He's through to the final of the British Crown Cup. Surprisingly, I would say so at this stage, but the competition's open right up for him. One more match and he's taken that cup home. So the next one's a little bit confusing. If anyone was at Havoc in the Heat, they would have seen the 5-man battle to become the Square One #1 contender going up against Denzel Mack at some point in the future to try and take that big red belt off him. Now, the winner of that one was Nero Toxin, who has been bragging about the fact that she's going to come in and take that belt away and usher in a new era. But this event had its own Square One scramble, again, to define the #1 contender for the Square One Championship. This has not been received well by Nero Toxin, and we'll find out how badly she feels about that later on. So again, it's 5 people in the ring. Who are these 5 people? Well, the first one that comes out is Memes. Oh my God, I can't stand that guy. What an idiot. Anyone who's been unfortunate enough to hear from this guy recently knows all he's prattling on about is the fact that he is the legacy of UBW. Not Arthur Scarro, not any of these new up-and-coming guys. They are useless and just in the way of him cementing what he sees as the true legacy of UBW himself. Now, he comes out, he names a couple of guys here who actually I have a lot of respect for. Roxy Lawless, she gets the look in there, as does Cruz. He's a mention of Ash. But he completely forgets about some superlative styles of the past, such as the Beards and the Dash, and even Majorly Rotten. I mean, where's the call for these guys? He's also prattling on about the fact that he's the PWI 500th best wrestler in the world. Please, can someone tell me when the next annual results of this are out so we can stop hearing about this? Because there's no way he's even in the top 1,000, top 10,000 this time round. Now, the 4 other people in this scramble have no time for memes at all. Who do we have? We have Shavoa, with the Shavoa section going wild at everything they do. We have Debbers, who's not actually too bothered about the match because there's a Pikachu somewhere around here that he's desperate to catch. We have Lincoln Spectre, the dojo bro and close friend of Bart, the co-GM. So maybe there's some favours there, but this guy can stand on his own. And we have a late replacement in Alexander Lockhart coming in to replace Axeman Bunting, who unfortunately was unable to make the event. Lockhart might be the smartest guy in Stevenage on that day. He comes in with a massive fan when the rest of us are absolutely sweltering. After addressing down from memes, the match gets underway and everyone basically kicks the so-called legend all over the place. Every one of them wants a piece of this idiot, and I can't blame them. Alexander Lockhart makes a massive impression on their debut, having given a scarf to co-GM Bart O'Connor, maybe because he thinks he's hurting in the throat as well as in the C-section scarf. But he's picked a fine time to come onto the catwalk of UBW and Square One. Shavoa is the one who owns the catwalk there and is not willing to give that up. There is a moment where the two of them go at each other, squawking and screaming, and the crowd go absolutely nuts for that. I hope this isn't the last time we see these two go one-on-one against each other. Debbers eventually gets involved. He's given up on the Pikachu. I think he might be looking for a shiny one after catching the original one. But across the ring is a Snorlax in the shape of memes. He's not bothered about catching him. I think he just wants to kick him in the face. But the real performer here is Lincoln Spectre. We saw him lose in the first round of the British Crown Cup, but in this one, I think he's got his eyes on the prize. And after a couple of absolutely stellar moves, including a suicide dive, he drags Lockhart back in the ring for the pin. 1, 2, 3. He's the #1 contender, or another #1 contender for the Squa-ramble title. And here we have it. A response to Lincoln Spectre winning is the arrival of Nero Toxin. Not happy with management at all. She comes out and she's venting her spleen, can I say that? She's venting her anger at Bart O'Connor post-splenectomy. I think that's the right word. And now also Arthur Scarrow for making this competition something that she thought she'd won as #1 contender. Now she's got to face Lincoln Spectre and Denzel Mack in a future event. Now, we have learned subsequently that Lincoln Spectre is injured and won't be able to take up that position at Crowning Glory. He's handed over his place to SSD, the Dandy, so it'll be interesting to see how that clash of styles go. I don't want to say I'm back in the Dandy for this one because I'm a big fan of Denzel Mack, but would I be stupid to say that Nero Toxin's probably going to reign supreme in this one? It's too close to call. Get down to Biggleswade for Crowning Glory because that is going to be potentially match of the night. At this stage, Nero Toxin is just coming to the ring, and the previous combatants are clearing out, and she's stalking round the outside, waiting for her match, and also possibly waiting for a piece of Lincoln Spectre. And who's her opponent on this night? Well, it's El Jantonio, and this is where I have to say we have to talk about LJ. Now, anyone who's seen the famous luchador from Stevenage, Mexico, or Biggleswade, Mexico, or Royston, Mexico, it's unclear where he's from, will know that El Extravagante, El Jantonio, is a happy, bubbly fella. He comes out to the strains of tequila, the crowd join in. He seems to love absolutely every moment of it. But he's on a bad run this year. He's yet to taste victory since he won the Squa-ramble #1 contender Rumble back at the tail end of 2024. And the smile's beginning to drift off his face. He goes into this match having the opportunity to take Nero Toxin's #1 contendership, another reason why she's so unhappy. But I'm not sure he ever really stood a chance. She is so angry and embittered by the situation that she has energy and ire to spare, and she puts it all out there in the ring and aims it all at El Jantonio. It's a sad thing to see. The guy does his best, but he gets absolutely clattered. And what happens at the end? Normally we'd see him get up and he'd high-five the fans, he'd take a trip out to the back along with the strains of his music, and everyone would still be cheering his name. But a strange silence has fallen over the arena. He looks at the crowd, takes off his elbow pads and throws them into the ring. I've seen guys leave their boots in the ring when they've hung them up, supposedly, and aren't coming back. Never seen the elbow pads done before, but there's a real despondency about our hero at this point. Bart O'Connor sees this too, and he says, "This just makes me sad. And we don't want that, El Jantonio." Subsequently, I've seen some videos where the guy said, changes have to be made. I need to make a change. I don't think you do. I think you just need to stick with it. You're 5-0 for the year, or rather 0-5, and that's not great. But the fans have still got your back. Please don't make any changes. Victory is around the corner. I think on this occasion, you're in the eye of the storm, in the way of the hurricane, just at the wrong moment. You can do this. We've got your back. We don't need any change. El Jantonio, always mi amigo. Are we at the main event already? I can't believe this. We've shot right through this one. So the main event, not an open challenge, not a dream. This is Tig, the tragically inept goober, versus the UBW British Heavyweight Champion, Chris Aries. I can't really recall how this situation comes about. I don't see it as an opportunity earned. I think the goober's actually on a worse streak than El Jantonio, having never tasted victory himself in the ring at either UBW or Squa-ramble. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Actually, don't bother, I'm not interested. Tig comes out backed by the rest of the label, so we've got Freddie Idol and Liam McCarthy in tow, and the numbers game is already playing a part. Before the bell can be rung, they take Chris Aries out the ring, and Tig DDTs him on the entrance ramp. And it looks like we're not even going to have a bout. They drag him back in the ring, plant him in the middle, and demand the ref starts the match. The ref's really loath to do it because Aries is in no fit state, but Aries brings himself to one elbow, drags himself up and says, "Ring the goddamn bell," and so the match is underway. I've said a lot of negative things about Tig in the past, none as negative as what the boss says there with her big foam finger pointing directly at Tig. The man of culture, not any culture I'm interested in, and I'm hopeful the era of culture does not begin here because there are times when it's very close to being the case. Previously, we've really looked at this guy as a figure of fun, but on this occasion, it looks as if he's standing toe-to-toe with the very best that UBW and BritWres has to offer. So It's slightly worrying because could we be seeing a new champion right here and now, and possibly coming from the stable of the label, but not the guys who we thought might take the belts? With all the shenanigans going on outside, with Liam and Freddie both getting involved, it's only a matter of time before someone has to do something. And those two people, TK and DM, Denzel Mack and Tony Kyle, come out, and they get the guys who shouldn't be by the ring out of the way, leaving only Aries and Tig in the ring. A couple of big boots later, and a stomp, and Chris Aries defends the belt. Tig, he's put up a decent fight here, and although I always say he's the hanger-on, on this occasion, if he didn't have those guys hanging around behind him, maybe he'd be on the straight and narrow and moving towards holding a belt in UBW. With a thank you to the crowd, the night is over, but stemming from this, we've already mentioned quite a lot that's coming up. Now, Tig is back in action. Maybe he's going to end his losing streak against Sunset Skip. I find that very unlikely. Point of note here, in any other business, I would have mentioned the passing of Terry Bollea, aka Hulk Hogan, but I'm going to put it in here. With the death of Hulk Hogan, we now only have one living athlete who has body slammed Andre the Giant, and that is our very own Sunset Skip, the legend and Hall of Famer of UBW. He's not been on too great a run of late. I think he went up against Liam McCarthy recently, but he'll be looking to get a W back in the column. That one's for you, Dan, up against Tig. Elsewhere on the card, we have Harrison Leon going up against Kai Payne, the Firestarter. Now, the Firestarter was lurking around the edges of Collateral Damage, looking to do some damage, it would seem. He didn't actually step in the ring. He didn't get involved, but he was smirking by the side of the ring, which is a bad sign for everyone. Don't forget, this guy's promised to ruin UBW and Square One. And the guy who beat Tig, Chris Aries, is defending his UBW British Heavyweight title against Alexander Roth, another member of the 8-7. So the 8-7 are in the house. Singles action, not tag team action at this stage. But the tag team division is not being let down. Well, at least not by the guys who are coming in to try and wrest the belts from Progressive Overload. True and Lacey are coming to UBW. We've seen these guys elsewhere, and they are absolutely spectacular. Expect high-flying assault and possibly new champions. I should mention as well, Shakedown on the Square is coming up very soon. In fact, after I finish recording here in the shed, I'm going straight down to the town square in Hitchin to check that out. Progressive Overload are in action, but they're sponsored by the Puppet Company. So Bert and Ernie, Puppet Company, you can't say that's not a match made in heaven. I mentioned it already as well. We have the Square One #1 contenders match as well. Denzel Mack at Crowning Glory will be facing the two #1 contenders. Well, at least one of them official and the other one put in place of Lincoln Spectre in the shape of SSD. This one will be an absolute stormer of a three-way. And the last match on the card, that would be the previously mentioned TK versus TJ, not a pilot versus not a dinosaur, semi-final to take a place in the final of the British Crown Cup later in the year. Any other business? Well, all I can say is I took a look at myself in the mirror just now and I thought, it's time to retire. This t-shirt, look at the state of it. The original Wrestling Outsider t-shirt is absolutely battered, much like the guy who's wearing it. But it's time to retire this one and get some new ones. If you'd like one, hit me up on Instagram and I'll see if I can include it in the next order. Until next time, I've been Hicksy, here in the Waffle Shed. Stay in the know with the WO.